Hi, Victoria here. I just wanted to make this video to share some of the personal challenges that I've been experiencing over the last few weeks, in the hope that it will also support you in facing your challenges and learning some coping strategies to embrace and transform how you're feeling. So, when this pandemic started, I must admit that I embraced and accepted what was going on with some levels of optimism, that this was a big catalyst of change, that this was going to create a shift in our ways of thinking, in our lifestyles, and although there was lots of challenging and difficult parts of that, that it would also be a time of review and reflection for lots of people, and a time of rest and recuperation for the planet as well. In the last few weeks, I've faced some really challenging feelings. This has been triggered by a whole host of reasons. One, I think, is the accumulation of social isolation. On top of that, there has been the death of a friend a few weeks ago. Concerns about my own health. At one point I had reason to believe I may have contracted the coronavirus, so I had to go for a test for that, which came back negative after a couple of days. And also concerns about other close family member who has some really serious health concerns at the moment. On top of that, feeling the responsibility of nurturing my son's emotional and educational needs, caring for my nana, which I do part of the week, who's very vulnerable, and adapting my services to online, as well as looking after my own mental, emotional and physical needs. So, first of all, with the health scare, I obviously had to retract from seeing my nana and from seeing my son. So my son was with his father at the time when I was at risk. So I contacted him and explained that I wouldn't be able to have my son back, our son back, should I say, until the test results had come back, which I say thankfully did come back negative. But there was a lot of pressure, a lot of responsibility and a lot of guilt coming up for me around these times, a whole host of emotions. So the guilt was very much associated with the lack of contact that I'd had with my friend who passed away. So all sorts of feelings of arose for me over this time period, as well as the guilt, the huge weight of responsibility that I felt for caring for my son and for my nana, which I was suddenly unable to do. The fear and the anxiety around the fact that I could have possibly passed this virus on to someone in my family who was more vulnerable, or to my son who could carry it to someone who was more vulnerable, or be impacted by it himself. I also had feelings of very low self-worth, which was a result of all these other negative feelings. Grief, loss, not being able to be there for people, that sense of responsibility, the pressure, that huge amount of responsibility was pretty crushing. And I felt a lot of pressure, a lot of anxiety. I felt a lot of chaos, discord and confusion. And this spiraled into levels of neurosis, anxiety, and fear, and very low levels of self-esteem. So what did I do? First of all, I slept. I felt so drained physically. My health wasn't great. Emotionally, mentally, I felt so drained. So I slept. I let myself do nothing. I laid in bed. Those responsibilities I couldn't keep up with anyway because of the risk of infecting people at that time. I had to be on my own. So I used that time to sleep a lot and to cry and to allow myself to feel those feelings. So rather than block them or distract myself at that time, I allowed myself to feel it. When things was too overwhelming, I would distract myself. I would allow myself to listen to some music or maybe watch a little inspirational video or sleep or read. But during that time, I also allowed myself to observe what feelings were going on for me. So we have a habit of disconnecting from our feelings, of brushing ourselves and getting on with things, and there is a time and a place for that, and there's definitely a balance where we do have to get on with things. But something that's been forgotten is in our culture is that we need to feel as well. We've become very disconnected from how we feel, and that can create numbness. It can create a great sense of disconnection from ourselves and from the people around us. And it can also manifest in all sorts of different physical ways if we don't process the feelings that we have emotionally and our thoughts mentally. So after this period of time of convalescence, I then started to write down how I was feeling, to observe those feelings, to sit with those feelings and allow myself to accept. So these stages of, or this list of things we can do to cope, for me starts with observing and accepting. So these are also mindfulness principles. We accept how we're feeling. We notice what that feeling is. And then we allow ourselves to start to process and release the feeling. But first we need to accept and allow it. Know that we're human, be kind and compassionate with ourselves, and remind ourselves that it's okay. I feel sad, that's okay. I feel guilty, that's okay. I'm telling myself these things. These feelings are telling me something about myself. They're telling me something that I can learn from, that I can adapt to. They're telling me something that maybe I need to stop. Maybe I need to change something. Maybe I need to relax. Maybe I need to look after myself more. So observing and accepting. The third thing is processing your feelings, channeling those feelings so you can release them. So that could be talking to somebody that you trust. That could be a professional. It could be a close friend that you know is able to hold that space for you. To check in with them, that let them know that you're struggling. Are they in a position to be able to hear you right now, or are they feeling too vulnerable themselves? And maybe having professionals that you can talk to as well. But building those contacts is a really valuable resource. So building up that network of support around you is a valuable resource, especially in these challenging times. Another way you might want to process and release these feelings is by writing stuff down. So having a journal or a notebook or even some scrap paper where you want to write it down, and you might even then want to tear it up or burn it safely and have some kind of a ritual of release like that. Other ways that you can release with ritual is by in the shower, having a cleansing ritual, feeling that water washing over you and dissolving and washing away those heavy feelings and making way for light to flow in, for those lighter feelings. Allowing yourself to open up to feelings of joy and pleasure and delight. And looking at other ways to help you process and channel and release those feelings. So if you're feeling really angry, for example, you might want to go for a run, or you might have a punch bag or a cushion or something you want to punch and let out some physical pent up energy. It could be that walking in nature helps you process it. It could be dancing, it could be singing or writing creatively. find what works for you, or painting, or, you know, there's so many ways you can explore in which to process and channel your feelings. A lot of songs, I think, are very therapeutic for songwriters and musicians because they're expressing how they feel through the power of music and lyrics. So then the next stage is depressurize, self-care. Be kind to yourself. So to allow yourself to release these emotions and then fill yourself up with that which is going to support you, which is going to help you feel stronger, which is going to help you adapt. So what helps you depressurize? So some of the things I might have already mentioned in processing those feelings, it might be a soak in the bath, it might be talking to a loved one, or FaceTiming someone in your family. Children are great for lifting our spirits. So doing things that are going to lift you up, things that are going to inspire you, listening to positive music, watching inspirational posts, reading inspirational information and literature, things that are going to lift you, avoiding negative information. You know, it's good to be informed, but don't overwhelm yourself with too much negative information. Give yourself respite, especially if you're struggling, and have the input be of a more positive nature. And then address and create. So address those feelings, which you're already doing through releasing, through channeling, through processing these emotions with words, with movement, with expression. But other ways of doing this are to look at strategies, look at problem solving thinking, break down those areas that you're really struggling with, write them down, break down what the different areas that are creating these different emotions, and look at what your needs are associated to those things, what needs aren't being met and why you're feeling that way. I'm going to put a link in the comments below to a list of universal feelings and needs taken from an NVC website, which I'll explain a little bit more in the comments. But this can really help us with this dialogue of getting to know what we're feeling and what needs we need to meet for ourselves. So look at and maybe make a list of all the things that fill you up, that bring you joy, and be kind to yourself. So really speak kindly to yourself. Tell yourself it's okay, you're human, you're doing your best. And look at ways in which you can address those specific areas of your life that are creating challenge. Look at how you can meet those needs, but also look at how you can bring more self-care into your world. A little bit of time for you, even if it's just first thing on a morning before you get up, or last thing at night before you go to bed. If you have commitments throughout the whole day to other people and other responsibilities, really assess those as well. Look at your boundaries. Look at where you are saying yes when actually you could say no. This has been a big part of this process for me this last few weeks. Because I offer support to so many people, I've had to pull back and build up my own resources so that I'm able to support other people. You can't give from an empty cup. So make sure when you need to retract as much as you're able to, allow yourself to do that and allow yourself to build up your resources. Prioritize your needs and prioritize your responsibilities. Simplify as much as you can. And finally, gratitude. So spend time at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, taking a moment to focus on, and if you can, write down what it is you're grateful for. And if you're struggling, start with your senses. Start with every one of your senses that are in working order and feeling gratitude for what you can experience through each sense. So hearing, for example, the sound of the birds, the sound of the breeze, the sound of running water, music that you love, being able to hear the voice of your friends. If it's sight, it's looking at the beauty of nature. When you're working with gratitude for your senses, apply them to experiencing nature through the senses, and that just really builds on that sense of gratitude, joy and abundance that we have all around us. So just to recap, first of all, we observe. We allow ourselves to notice what we're feeling. Use the list of universal feelings if that helps you to have that dialogue with yourself. Then we accept and we embrace, we allow, we accept and we allow, embracing those feelings, knowing that it's okay to have those feelings, nurturing ourselves through those feelings. And then thirdly, processing and releasing. So channeling and releasing those feelings, finding healthy ways in which you can express what you're feeling without sending negative energy to anybody else, seeing if there are people out there that you can connect with and talk to who are ready to hold space for you and allow you to express what you're feeling. Write stuff down, run, walk, all the things that we've discussed. Fourth, depressurize. Allow yourself moments of release. So as well as releasing your emotions and expressing those heavy emotions, allow yourself other ways of depressurizing, bringing joy and time for you, for self-care, so for self-nurture. Meditate, yoga, exercise. Look after your body, mind and spirit in order to depressurize. Fifth, address and create. So addressing with practical action. So breaking down those concerns, those issues in your life and looking at creative ways in which you can address them. Looking at creative ways in which you can problem solve, in which you can maybe put some boundaries in place, where you need to say no, where you can maybe let go of some responsibilities to relieve some of the pressure, and where you can maybe bring in resources to help you cope with some of the other responsibilities and challenges that you have. And then finally, gratitude. So fill yourself with gratitude each day. Recognize all the things that you're grateful for. Do this on a morning to start yourself on a positive day, and do this on an evening to end on a positive note. I hope this has been helpful. I'm coming out of the other side of these really challenging times. But remember, life is cyclical. Nature moves in cycles and we are part of nature. So we move in cycles. So we have moments of joy, of feeling really centered and really balanced and in harmony. And we have moments of despair, of challenge, of grief. And just know that this is a natural part of nature, a natural part of our own human cycles. And just allow, embrace, accept, and fill yourself up. Look after yourself in whatever way feels right to you. I'd highly recommend getting a journal to express what you're feeling, and also to make positive notes about how you're going to do more for self-care and to bring more joy into your life. So I hope this has been helpful, and if you have any comments, requests, feedback, please comment, please like, subscribe and hit the bell for the YouTube channel to keep up to date with more posts, and I hope to see you soon. Signing off with love.